Good morning, everybody, and happy Monday. I hope everyone had a wonderful Easter Sunday. I know I did. I want to welcome you to the Changebook International podcast, where every Monday I bring one of our amazing authors here to tell us about themselves and tell us about the chapter they wrote. And today is no exception. So I want to welcome, I'm going to read this, Greg Mester, but I don't know what Scrum is, so
Okay.
you are going to tell me. Let's start with that. What is that?
So 5 a.m. Mester Scrum is a show I created pre-COVID, and but Scrum is a way of working as a team. So I coach a lot of teams, and this framework called Scrum. I guess I could have put my name in the header. I didn't think about that.
No,
But,
that's okay, because I've never seen that word except for you. And so
Okay.
I've been waiting to ask you what it means, because I have
Okay.
never seen it and I've lived a long time.
Okay.
So tell us about that.
Okay. So part of it, so Scrum is a framework for how teams work together, and started out in the IT world, but it can apply to anything. Okay, and it's really involved a couple key things. It's very simple. Sometimes people think it's not complicated enough, but it's real simple. So it involves three roles: the team members. So anybody in the team is considered a role. What they call a Scrum Master, who helps organize and keep the team going, facilitating operations, and a product owner, which helps brings the requirements and desires from the customers into the team to build the product. Okay, so those are the roles, and then there's four, quasi five. They call one a fifth event in Scrum. So you have a sprint planning session. So it's in a time box too, by the way. So you set up time box, like we want to achieve something in either like a 2 week, a 1 week, could be a 3 week, could be a month, could be any range like that. So you set yourself some boundaries. So in there, when you start your time box, you do what they call a sprint planning session. The whole team gets together. The product owner shows all the things that the client wants, and the team has to pick which ones they're going to work on during this time box. Okay, so they all plan out what they're going to do, and then they have what they call a daily Scrum. So after that's planned, each day they meet together. They talk about how they're progressing, if they have any blockers, need any help from anybody else in the team, and it all gets. That meeting only takes 15 minutes. So it's a break from the old ways. Let's sit for an hour and talk about what we're doing every day. No, 15 minutes is all you get. You know, it's between 6, 8, 10 people in a team, and you get it done. You're out and you go do your stuff, because everyone likes to complain about meetings. So you keep it tight. Then they have what they call a sprint review, where the team reviews what they produced with the stakeholders, the clients, the people, and the product owner. They present it and get feedback on what they did. Okay, and then after that review, the team holds what they call a retrospective, sprint retrospective, where they retro on how they did as a team, how they worked, how to go over. So that's pretty much Scrum in a nutshell. Okay, there is one more event they call the sprint. So they had to say, well, we have to make a sprint an event because it's 2 weeks, so we call it a sprint. So that's the fifth one that they call an event, which is the actual time box itself, where they call it a sprint. But that's Scrum in a nutshell. And the whole idea is that you're always learning and iterating and getting quicker and better, and you're always getting feedback from the customer, feedback from your coworkers, or whatever you need to do. And the idea is that makes everything run better. Okay. So that's Scrum in a nutshell. IT's been doing it for years. I use it to coach my people when I coach individually as well, and my masterminds. I kind of morph the idea of Scrum into the mastermind, because I've learned things about masterminds that a lot of places don't do, which are key to making a mastermind successful.
Okay. That makes sense. Now that I, understand it. And when you talk about your team, are they working for you, or are they people you're coaching that are coming in to do this for themselves?
They're people I'm coaching. So they don't work for me. Though I have had it where I was a boss and I implemented Scrum and they worked for me, under me in certain companies or project manager, whatever it was. But no, I am an indirect influencer of how they do and give them guidance, and they ask me questions and how does this work, Greg? And does this what everyone else does? And they always want to know what everyone else does. I said, don't worry about what everyone else does. Do what makes sense for you. So it's
Yeah,
funny, that little battle.
that makes sense, because I find everybody today is, oh, what are they doing? Am I not doing? And it's like, you know what? Just do you. No one does it better than
Right.
us, So,
Yeah.
and is this really at 5 a.m.?
Well, originally it was. So my kids were young back. We were talking about kids before we did the show a little bit, and my kids were like 2 or 3 or something, and I had to find a time that I could get on social media without them being there, my own personal time. So when I originally started, if you look the original episodes on YouTube, they're all in there. You'll see me half asleep when I'm in there. I could tell that I wasn't awake yet, and just what it was. So yeah, it all started at 5 a.m. So that was my little hook in there, was 5 a.m. Though I found out most people weren't awake at 5 a.m. So I wasn't getting the views until later. But the beauty of YouTube, it's in a vault, a library. People can, it doesn't matter what time of day you go into. But though lately I started what on the other hash mark is a 67-day challenge.
Ooh.
So what I learned, I started, and we'll get into why I did the book. But I tagged along. I have a mentor, Dan Martell, who wrote the book, Buy Back Your Time. So I joined one of his groups. And he has challenges he has everyone do. Like, you got to work out, and you got to do this, and you got to read a book. And I'm like researching on how I want to make this a good lifetime habit. This is change. This is all about change. This is how I coach people. I don't coach people if I haven't done it before. So I instilled myself a 67-day challenge because there were some studies done. If you read Atomic Habits, 66 days is the magic number, that once you do something 66 days in a row, you're pretty much on a good track to do that for the rest of your life, if that's what you choose. So I made it 67 days because I wanted to do one more. So if you listen to Ed Milet, it's like one more. So I added one more. So it's 67-day challenge. So after 67 days, so now I get up before 5 a.m. because that was one of my challenges. And I have failed, and I call them the Great Reset. So sometimes you have these great resets and you get a penalty. I do it differently. It's not you just didn't do it. You have to go back, count from 1 all over again. So if you're 20, I was like 24 days in the one time, and I didn't get up at 5 a.m. So I had to go all the way back to day 1. And I had to call that a great reset. And then I give myself a penalty. So like my penalty was no TV. So if I made it to 28 days or whatever, 14 days or whatever I had to do recycle, I couldn't watch television until I passed that point again.
Wow.
So it had impact. It wasn't just, and I celebrate when I complete a 67-day challenge. I do well. And speaking of that, today I completed a 67-day challenge for biking 15 minutes a day. I have a stationary bike that I have in a corner, and I've been doing it every day for 67 days.
Bravo. So, that's, if I had to do something at 5 a.m. for 67 days, I would have to start every day at 1. I'm just not that morning person. It would be like, oh, did I do this again? So kudos to you.
Thank you.
For not only being brave enough to restart, but completing. So that's awesome. Yeah.
And I do hold myself accountable. Speaking of doing this, every day around between 5:15, 5:30, I will go live and do an accountability session on my 67-day challenge program. And I talk about what I learned from the day before, if something worked, something didn't work, prep for a new one, So every day I kind of do that as my own accountability session. I'm out there. So not only am I saying, oh, you should do this, I'm like, you can watch my videos. You can see when I mess up, and we're all human and we make mistakes, but how do I move on for it? What do I retrospect on why it failed? and
Wow.
try to get deeper in the conversation. They share that with the audience and things like that. And
So
other people doing it. There's a
yeah.
couple of people now text me back, hey, I appreciate it. I'm going to start on my bike or this or that. It's kind of interesting. Every once in a while I get one, hey, you encouraged me to do a 67-day challenge. So
That's always nice, isn't it? To know that
yes,
you're making a
it is.
difference.
It is nice.
Truly. And along with that, coaching, I know you're an author and a speaker. So let's talk about being an author real quick. You're part of the Change Book.
Yes, I am.
What made you decide to choose the Change Book?
What made me decide? I'm trying to find my section in the Change Book so I can show it.
And I think we're in the same. You're in 20.
I'm in 20. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And what made me do it? So, like I said, I mentioned a couple of people I listened to. Where's my page? I was trying to mark it on my page. I lost my page. But that's okay. A couple things. One, I always wanted to do a book and get involved. I actually have it. One of my goals. If you ever do one of those, and it's up not anywhere near. Well, no, hold on.
Okay, I got time.
I have a vision board.
Oh, okay.
So on my vision board should be on here. Someone write a book right there.
Oh, very cool.
So I had done this about a year or so beforehand. And, I wanted to write a whole book and do all this and said, but this opportunity came up to say, hey, I got a section of book to be a co-author. And I'm like, you know what, maybe this will get me into the mindset of writing a book. And so I think, okay, cool. And then it was having Jim Britt and Jim Lutz as co-authors and the opportunity to use them as mentors to get into the speaking game and doing that, put it over the top. You got to spend money to write a book and all, which is good. And people are like, oh, it's about book, or I'm going to sell copies about book. It's more than that. It was more about me having that connection, asking questions. We do our session once a month and all that. And just having that availability has been, pretty changing as far as that goes.
I agree with you.
So that's why I got on this book. So
good. And you to have Jim Britt and Jim Lutz just flow freely with their wisdom on our monthly masterminds, to me, has just been incredible. And that too was a selling point for me. So what is your chapter about?
So my chapter is about surviving a lifetime of change. So it's funny. I shared the book or my excerpt of the book, and you could, if you join my mailing list, you can get a free PDF copy. Okay. So if you join my mailing list, I got it on my 5 a.m. Mester Scrum. I have it on my Idea Communications. There's a company I have. So IdeaCommNets. And then there has links to every author in the book. So it's not just me. I'm sharing everyone because I want everyone to learn about all these different people. And mine is about living in a lifetime of change, turning no's into yeses.
Yeah,
it's like
I saw that.
The subtopic. So I have done over 80 jobs, 80 different career things throughout my lifetime, probably more now. And now I'm really getting to be an author, right? That wasn't on my list when I wrote it. So now I got to add that to the list of things I've done. But you're always going to experience change. What do you do to do it? So in my book, one, it talks about initially how to live with no's, how to benefit from that, how to grow from the no's you get. Like I had to do door-to-door sales for perfume sales when I got out of college because there was no engineering jobs. I'm an engineer by trade. There was no job. So I just somehow ended up doing door-to-door sales of perfume along the streets and local neighborhood. And, I got a lot of no's, but it kept me going. I just got to one yes. So it talks about a little bit of that. Talks about taking larger things and make them small enough so people can say yes to you. Right.
Interesting.
So it's there's a couple different facets. One, just learning from the no's and getting used to it and practice. And if you listen to anybody out there, especially Alex Hormozy, who's another book I got up there. You got to practice. You just got to keep going. And you listen to Jim, when Jim Lutz was talking, is that you just got to keep doing it every day. You're going to get a lot of no's, but all you need is a couple of yeses and you'll be fine. Right. And that's what the big thing. So that's part of it. And that'll probably be my next book out there. And then the last part is just getting mentors and growing yourself. Don't say no to your own growth. Right. A lot of people like, I don't need a coach. I don't need a mentor. I don't need to join a mastermind. But that's how you get to the next level. And that's actually going to be my next book that's going to come out later in 2025 and 26 is how to get to the next level. So it all builds on that. It gives you a little introduction to what my next book's going to be. But I wanted to give little tips and pointers for people that, anybody can do this and you can grow from it. That's kind of how I coach. So,
yeah. How do you change a no into a yes? Just give us a little tip there.
Well, there's all kinds of no's. There's no's that you personally give yourself. No, I can't do it.
Ooh, I didn't think about that.
Right. So that's what the first section is kind of about. No, I can't do it. It's not for me. It's for somebody else. And you have to get past that personally. Like, I can't sell door-to-door perfume. No way I could do it. Why not? Let's give it a shot. I don't know. I didn't want the best salesman, but heck, why not? But you have to. I'll give you a prime example. No, that's another person, but I'll give for myself personally. You just have to get over, I can do that. Maybe you get some training. Maybe you take some learning so that you can give yourself a yes, but you don't live with the no forever. With your kid trying to apply, like, well, I'm not an A student. I shouldn't go to AP class or something like that. But if it's something you really enjoy and want to do it, then go for it. Right. And push for it. And there'll be people to block you all the time. You're not smart enough. You're not quick enough. You're not fast enough. But if you work at it, you'll get there. So that's part of that personal notes. And I also say from an education point viewing, I had people I coached. They were product owners per se for this one company. And I got the company to pay for certifications, $5,000 worth of certifications for these group, right? They didn't want to do it. What? And I'm like, it's fine. They're paying for their day, right? And the time they needed, it was like a whole week course. They pay for it, all this stuff. And there was a special one for product owners they were going to pay for. And they didn't think they needed it. They didn't think they wanted it. I said, well, at least you come out with a certification. You get a little paperwork that goes along with it. Oh, I don't need that. I know what I'm doing. Well, and they said no. And within 6 months, they got acquired as a company and they got rid of most of their IT people.
Ooh, ouch.
So this is where you say, no, I don't need it. No, I don't need it for myself. But it doesn't hurt. Look at all the reasons why you can say, yes, they paid for it. You're on your time. It's going to, you get to walk away with a certification. You can carry it forever. Right. Those are the kind of things you notice to yourself. No, I don't need that. Well, why can't you? I end up doing, well, anyway. So, but the other thing, so that's yourself, right? Make them smaller. No, I can't hike the Appalachian Trail, which is one of my goals. But I can go walking 12,000 steps, and I've worked it up from 9,000 to 10,000. Now I'm doing 12,000 a day. Right. Just because I made little changes. Right. So you make them smaller, which goes into how you make other people turn their no's into yeses. You make things smaller. Where I used to manage $40 million budgets in Defense Department and stuff like that. I learned tricks from people that have been doing it for a long time. You hear all this Doge stuff. I said, I was in it. I know what's going on, how you do it. I was really good at it too. Where I learned from one Navy captain or lieutenant, I think it was a captain or commander. Anyway, he taught me I had to get money for a device that we built to track engines because we were losing them. Don't ask me why. We would misplace aircraft engines that cost $2 million.
How does that happen?
because they get delivered and they get put somewhere on the tarmac and they don't know where it went. And
Oh
so,
my gosh.
so we came up with a device to track this up, and we did it in 6 months, which is one of the other things that you can do it. No, you can't do it. Yeah, we can. We did it in 6 months. We ended up getting more money, and we ended up presenting to the Undersecretary of the Navy what we did. But what we earned is that people said no, and we said, yeah, why not? Right. And we made it smaller. And the way we got funded for support is this smart guy. He's like, oh, we can make this happen. We just took my little $10 million program and stuck it in the aircraft budget, the engine budget for the Navy Department. So as they're buying engines, which cost $2 million a pop plus, right? And now they're even more expensive, but back then it was around $2 million. My little $10 million budget just disappeared. Made it so small that it didn't matter, right? So it was easy enough to say yes to it. Now, this is where you get that mindset of abundance, right? So it's funny. I'm learning this when I'm in my 20s. I never realized what it was.
Right. It was. Yeah. Right? No kidding.
But it really was the abundance mindset. There's plenty of money. There's plenty of budget. You're just a small piece. Don't microanalyze the $10 million you need to invest, right? Because in the big picture, things is nothing, you know? Wow. And it was funny. What really sunk in is when I did this, and this is how I made it change. They approved it, and they're like, well, how are you going to get the money? I don't know. The guy says, well, I'll just send it over to your base, your Navy base, which our base was $17 billion. That was our budget, $17 billion, right? Oh, we'll just send it to your base. I'm like, okay. I had no idea how that was going to work. At that time, I was wearing a suit and tie and walking around. And I talked to one person. That's okay. We'll just change your budget for your base. So they just changed the budget for the $10 million in my budget for the base and put it in the $17 billion.
Wow.
So it was interesting watching that perspective.
I bet.
From a little, first we started with $100,000 little project. And next thing we know, we're getting $10 million and we're putting in changing a budget for $17 billion just to transfer the money from one operation to another.
Wow, so, that's crazy. Yeah, that's
so
kind of like abracadabra.
They all said yes.
Yeah. Well, there you go. So you learned very early about that, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. And I actually got really good at it from learning from these other people who've done it, that other people like, well, how'd you do this stuff? Like, when I worked for the Army department, because I jumped over I never worked for the Army, went over and started building tanks. Instead of airplanes, I was building tanks. And one of the things, when my boss would ever go to Detroit, to the headquarters for Army Heavy Brigade, and I had this one contract was like $45 million. And we had to redo stuff and build some new tech. And every time he'd go, he would lose money. I'm like, stop going. Because they're valuable projects, but they would take the money out of our budget. I said, I already planned to use this money for this, and the other thing. Now I got to rescope everything because you just lost us $5 million, right? And every time you go, I lose $5 million. So I got smart the next time, because this is what they would see. These budget people would see this giant $45 million budget and like, oh, we could use that to spend on other things. It's like my cash cow, right? So I outthought them. I said, you know what? I'm going to develop 5 programs. They're all going to be like $5 million a piece, which is going to add up to, well, 5, some of them were 6. It would add up to like $30 million, a little under 30, between 25 and $30 million. So I got the same work done, but I made the pot smaller so the people up top wouldn't see this giant pot of money that they can go take from and spend it elsewhere.
Nice. Kind of like hiding it, moving it around a little bit.
We made it smaller so it can use it and do what people said they're a little more admin work, because he had a little more admin work, but overall we made the same amount of revenue as we had the year before. Just I split it up a little bit.
Wow.
So those are the kind of ways of just making things smaller so that people can, absorb them and work with them. Right. They freak out on these large numbers, and I'm like, well, one these are really small numbers in the big picture of things, but to make your life happy, I'll make them smaller.
There you go.
You know?
There you go. And I know we're getting close to our time.
Yeah.
I want to talk to you about being a speaker. What do you like to speak about for our audience?
Well, one, I like to speak about Scrum and everything like that, and different things. And but I also like to speak about motivation, career.
Mm.
I speak about what's in the book. So I just did a little show on PALive, which is a local Scranton television program.
I saw that.
And I
I was going to ask you about
promoted the
that.
show, promoted the book. And one of the things, going back to that 67-day challenge, which I love about this book, and the host was like, "Oh, that's pretty cool." It's like each chapter, we have a different person in there, and they're all about 10 pages long. And that goes right to one of the challenges I got from Dan Martell, which I was doing somewhat, but I increased it to reading 10 pages every morning, no matter what the book is. And then I highlight it. So as you can see, I'm highlighting quotes from all the different speakers or the people in the book. And I've shown that as something I encourage people to grow on. So I speak about the book. I speak about things I did career-wise, how to progress in your career, how to grow, how to turn those no's into yeses, and various things in the Scrum world, which I'm a you want to call a specialist or an expert in, or someone who knows about it for so many years. But those are the kind of things I talk about. And right now it's just about growing as an individual. So doing the 67-day challenge, talking about turning those in yeses. Those are the kind of things I speak about right now. And in the future, my when I get my new books, Getting to the Next Level, I'm going to be speaking about how do you get there. And one of my goals is to turn this book into a TED Talk.
Oh, interesting. The whole book or just your chapter?
My chapter.
Your chapter. Because I was going to say, it's pretty cool that, when you're dealing with two gems like that, to get that out there and tell people. I mean, I feel like, how can you say no? So, but yeah, you've got, and that's amazing because you're so vast in your knowledge of things. And that's one of the reasons I love doing these podcasts, is because I learn something every time I come on here.
Yeah. And why join the book? Like, if you're looking for something to get you started, like I said, it gave me an introduction to what goes into writing a book. Learned a lot about how they assemble it and put it together and doing all that. Learned how you use the book for marketing purposes, right? Because I do that too. Like I said, if you sign up for my newsletter, you can get a digital PDF copy, and you can always buy a copy. And then just using it, like I said, for a TEDx one day. It's the perfect size. It's 10 pages long. TEDx is small. You can't talk to a whole, your topic is small, and you keep it tight, right?
Yeah.
So when I do something, I try to do 10x or multi-purpose. I say 2-for-1 Tuesdays, where I try to double the value I get for the one thing I do.
Interesting.
So when you do this book, it's not about just, I'm going to make $20 a copy. No, that's nothing. That's chicken feed for what you really make in the big scheme of things. And I'm leveraging this. I got like 15,000 connections in LinkedIn. So
wow,
I use that part of my connections and offering that to them and things like that too. So it's about everything, just besides just the book. If your focus is just, I'm going to make a little book, then you're not going to get the full value.
Yeah.
Like you said, I love listening to Jim and reconnecting with Les Brown, who's on the book, on this copy.
Yes.
Just listening to his stuff, his words of wisdom and stuff like that. It's been awesome.
Yeah, it absolutely has for me as well. I totally agree with you. And as we're coming to the end of our time, can you give our audience just maybe a nugget to take with them based on your knowledge, just something maybe with Scrum?
Yeah. If you find yourself stuck in where you want to be, and you haven't, you want to do something but haven't done it, reach out to a potential mentor or somebody at the next level, or a coach or a mastermind, or start looking for, or start reading podcasts, people that you may want to get in connection with, that'll help you get there.
Beautiful.
And you can reach out to anybody in the book. Then the beauty thing about the book, there's contacts, there's all kinds of stuff in here. And that's what I said. There's like people, all different makes and models and different aspects, abuse or not abuse or health issues or business issues. There's a whole smorgasbord of topics that may or may not apply to what you're doing.
Our book is a buffet.
It is a buffet of knowledge. But going out there, I would say, go reach out, get a coach, get somebody you can talk to that's not your family members, not that your coworkers, your boss. I will say people inside the company tend to try to get something from themselves, and you're always worried about will they use something you say against you. So having an independent coach or something is worth it, even if you're just trying it out. And that's the other thing. Just try it out. I'm not saying do it forever. Sign up for 6 months or a couple months. See if it works. If it doesn't work, you can get out.
Yep.
So
no, that's great advice. And I want to thank you for coming on today. And I want our audience to know that I have got several links in the description to where you can get a hold of Greg. And I obviously think you should. I have learned a lot today, and I know you can as well. So Greg, thank you so much for being on today. This has been incredibly interesting. And again, I've learned new stuff. So thank you for that.
I learned all about Scrum.
I heard all about Scrum and appreciate it. So everybody take care out there. Have a wonderful week. I will see you next Monday. Thank you.